Good morning or good day, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests and participants of the fifth forum of the EU strategy for the Adriatic Ionian region. We continue this second day in the same tempo. Yesterday, we had more than 700 participants and a great number of speakers and officials from Serbia and Europe, and we are certain that many sessions were of interest to you and that the information you receive will be of use to you in further work and engagements related to this topic. An equally interesting day is expected, as well as many significant and important topics, from elevating the consequences caused by the coronavirus pandemic through culture and creative industries connecting this region and environmental topics. We will also discuss the EUSAIR priorities. During the networking sessions, we remind you that you can connect with European colleagues and partners, exchange experiences, or perhaps leave contacts in order to prepare new projects. Here, we would like to note to journalists that the press conference will be organized from 13:15 as a special session where, with accreditation, you will be able to ask our experts from the EU and Serbia questions regarding the strategy for the Adriatic Ionian region. During the breaks, we invite you to follow the cultural and arts program we have prepared. The first session will now follow: post-COVID recovery of the cultural and creative industries in the Adriatic Ionian region. Warm welcome to Mr. Igor Stiks. The floor or the screen is yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I'm having excellent guests today, experts in their fields who will share with us their views, their impressions, their experiences of this COVID crisis, but also their ideas how to move forward. My name is Igor Stiks, and I'm here in capacity of professor at the Faculty of Media and Communications. I'm also a writer. Faculty of Media and Communication was invited to moderate this session due to our involvement with the series of cultural and regional issues, and we are really happy to have today with us people who are leaders in their field, who are artists themselves, but also cultural managers coming from almost all countries of this region. So we will go for participants and all those following us, we will go in sort of 3 rounds. What we want to do in the first round is actually to take the temperature of what actually happened and the experiences of the COVID crisis. We promise that it's not only going to come down to complaining and crying, that there will be also a critical assessment of this crisis, some bad and good aspects of it. In the second round, we'll move towards solutions. And there are a lot of interesting suggestions coming from our participants. Especially we have, I'm sure we have a lot of people now who are following us who are involved with the policies, who are involved with the institutional agencies, who are themselves cultural workers. So I think that we want to actually to press with some concrete suggestions. There is no time to waste. And finally, in the third round, we'll deal with the controversies of what's been said. And there, of course, we invite you to send us your questions so that we can we can open up maybe things that we did not cover during the session. Now, I will start with Maria Katalinic coming to us from the Rijeka 2020, European Cultural Capital, Rijeka 2020, a very exciting project that had this bad luck to happen during the COVID year. So this certainly posed many unexpected challenges. So I would ask Maria to start simply sharing with us how it was to organize the European Cultural Capital during the time when Europe was under and still is under the pandemic crisis. Maria.
Thank you very much, Igor, for putting me on the, go first, and for everybody being part of this panel, and for a wonderful presentation of this forum. Well, as a program manager within the Rijeka 2020, especially, when the 2020 was supposed to be happening and it's all, vast grand scale, one really is, as you said, confronted with bad luck. However, the reorganization had to happen of the program itself. And what basically we understood, and what kind of, I even have to say, organically started to happen, is that you see all the connections that you had with the European programs, with projects, with people coming together, participating in different kind of forums, whether that was in Rijeka or outside, was now kind of halted. And we realized that, you had to work with what you've got. And so instead of kind of going like, it's over, we're not going forward, this is it for 2020, we basically turned inwards, the gaze went inwards to what we had. And that was a fantastic local community. And the programs we've been developing for years that were kind of coming to its fruitful kind of, not end, but show like a showcase, was, how we focused, how we kind of got over the whole really chaotic and not so, pleasant situation. So just to kind of, I know we all, there's wonderful people at this panel, as I said, I want to give everybody equal time. So for us was, focusing on what we had. That was, as I said, local community, but also like outside spaces. So greening the city actions, activities of the local community in those spaces, inviting people to spend time together, but as I said, outside, having things online, being there, kind of show and tell through social media, but also, having local performance and artists performing in those outside spaces, also online for the local community. I think that really kind of connected everybody. And of course, again, that was this kind of a feel that, we missed out somehow on this wonderful opportunity to shine for everyone. But I still think we shined, just in a different way that we thought we should be shining. So in that respect, I really am but I really am proud what we did as a project in 2020 and still going on.
Thank you very much. This is really good to hear. I'm sure you'll be able to share many experiences with the next European cultural capital, which is Novi Sad. And Goran Tomka comes from there, assistant professor there at the University of Novi Sad, but also at Faculty of Media and Communications, and also involved with this project. So Goran, having in mind what happened during this year and what certainly continues in 2021, what are your expectations and fears, and what do you see as challenges?
Thank you, Igor, and thanks everyone for having me. Well, I think that what Maria said was actually holds true for so many contexts, including Novi Sad. And one of the things that actually happened, I think, throughout Europe is that we all realize that something big is happening. So a lot of research also happened, because this is very exciting time to actually learn what is going on. And from various research that I would like to report very briefly on, we see that the changes were quite devastating on the one hand. EUI Consult made an estimate that European creative and cultural sector shrank by 31%. here in Serbia and in the region, the countries that we are talking about, we did with Center for Empirical Studies in Culture a different research with independent arts and culture, and we saw that economically their incomes shrank as high as 50%. So basically people were left with only half of their income. Many other research show the same, but it is also, I think, very interesting to notice that not everyone was hit the same, so everyone is in trouble, but here we see really big structural differences across the field that we really have to take notice in when we discuss also the future developments. We saw big class divisions, that those who do not have the cultural, economic, social capital to actually hold them over the crisis were hit very, very badly. And many of them are actually thinking of leaving or changing the profession, which if we project that into future means actually losing a lot of diversity of cultural expression. And if we go even further, means a new re-elitization of arts, which also means, less and less audiences for very exclusive programs and so on. So this is a big issue. Another issue, of course, is EU, non-EU, but we'll talk about that later. But then some other things, more positive things, I think also happened. One is that a lot of people report that they felt some kind of space and time to reflect, to breathe, to spend time with their children, with their loved ones, with their friends. I think this should not be underestimated. We are living in this 24/7 working culture that is not healthy. We cannot sustain that, and we shouldn't sustain it. When we talk about going back to normal, that shouldn't be the one that we are going back to. So certain kind of maybe even relocalization, so re-establishing connections with people around you instead of touring constantly and writing project proposals also happened. And finally, many, I would say, the political agency within the culture field, which is often on the brink of this political neutrality, post-political, no, we are not, we don't want to engage with political issues and so on, which is, I think, also very deadly, changed a lot. So we see a lot of policy initiatives, things like a cultural deal for Europe that European Culture Foundation and others started. A lot of solidarity happened here in Serbia, in Belgrade. We had this new solidarity fund for culture and arts. So I think that there are actually some things that we shouldn't forget and leave behind, but should actually be proud of, as also Maria said, new audiences, new connections, new reflections, new ideas that we should actually take care of and carry them into the future. And I hope we'll discuss more about that later.
Thank you, Goran. Maria gave us insight into artistic and creative improvisation under difficult circumstances. Thank you for bringing in the social impact of what is actually happening and where the culture might go. But you also mentioned, of course, the political framework in which we work. So I would now call Peter Purg, not only because he comes from Nova Gorica, which is supposed also to be the European cultural capital a few years from now, but who also might comment on precisely these political pressures that the cultural sector is found itself during the pandemic.
Thank you, Goran. Our successful candidacy for the European Capital of Culture in Nova Gorica is a twin town coupled with Gorizia, with the Italian counterpart, and it has the motto of "Go Borderless." So we a priori believe into this regional moment. However, this euphoria that came just a month ago when we won the title, of course, immediately found a sobering up moment within the present situation of this grand demystification of the reality of the cultural and creative sector. So I believe that Corona demystified many beliefs and stereotypes of success of this Europe safeguarded positive growth at large, and particularly in the CCI sector, laying bare the vulnerability of states, communities, and individuals, but also instigating a said new resilience, if not refusal, or even counterculture. So all in all, this collaborative atmosphere and creative energy seems to have been dominated or even replaced by fear and selfishness on all levels, from the individual to state. So in my expert field, which is intermedia, investigative, interdisciplinary arts, or art and science, if you want, within the contemporary arts context, it appears, the sector appears not to be hit so badly at first glimpse. The online festivals are going on in creative new formats, remote residencies are happening, even some stipendiums and grants are running. But not only in Slovenia, the government, the ministry supported financing is ebbing, obviously, and it's becoming quite opaque, intransparent, and erratic, and within a very unclear future prospect. While the EU is focusing on keeping jobs, social order or social peace, and on the Green Deal, where the role of culture, arts, and humanities at large is much neglected. It seems like a matter of business only. Just yesterday, we had an affair, another one with the Slovenian government, keeping 5 billion of investment decisions secret from public, while, well, obviously arts and humanities can and should help there, and we were on the streets. So in Slovenia, we saw this political dismantling of quality-oriented legislation in terms of committees and institutions through abrupt and quite questionable staff changes on top management positions, systematic deconstruction of both this high-quality institutional, cultural institutions obviously by the political, domain. We also have an interesting paradox of Ljubljana, which is this, cultural tourist prodigy of the region, with used to have best progressive public arts funding scheme. And, it was this EU hip and comfy capital versus now the ROG case, which you probably mostly know of. Within last week's aggressive eviction of the users from this very last autonomous spot in central Ljubljana, many of the artists and activists basically were thrown out in exchange to build their creative center that would basically commodify, obviously, and gentrify the Ljubljana center as a tourist destination, while the Metelkova area is under a similar eviction attack, if you want, by the Ministry of Culture itself. So these herbicidal tendencies are also showing in other cities and towns of Slovenia beyond the hopes of the current ECOC title in Nova Gorica, which is definitely short-sighted and definitely a wrong maneuver by the permanent progressive, at least, the Ljubljana mayor was said to be so. Whereas they're designing the cultural quarter, obviously, which could mean, in words of Goran Tomka, a re-elitization of the urban tissue, and then a time, for standing up, which we did. But more about this, the creative responses to the situation, probably in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, the crisis is always an opportunity, but you can do various things with it. Now, going to the crisis management, I will now invite two intendants of some of the most important theater festival in the region, Dora Ruždiak-Podolski, who is the intendant of the Dubrovnik Summer Festival, and Nihat Kreševljaković, the intendant of the MES International Theater Festival. So Dora, I know you have a lot of things to share with us, how it was to manage actually a festival, the summer festival that is supposed to bring thousands and thousands of people together, mixture of cultural and of cultural interest and also tourism. What happened this year? You have to unmute yourself.
Sure. I'm not good in technological things, so my apologies, and good day to everyone. Nice to be part of this discussion. I'm honored. The discussion went a little bit further than my introduction would be, but I need to expose some things that happened last year in last edition of the festival, just to give a picture directly from the praxis, and the praxis was pretty adventurous last year. So I will share with you some photos just to have a little bit of the atmosphere and to have a little bit of sentiment of beautiful summer days. Okay, give me just a second, because how's disabled participant screen sharing? Okay, okay, I don't know what's happening.
I'm not sure if yeah, we said that we are only going to talk, so no presentation.
But I heard many times with the time code, but I don't understand right now what's happening. Perhaps I can do it right now. Tell me if it will be possible. Just a second. No, I'm not sure it will be okay. Okay, doesn't matter. So
they tell us from the studio that you can try
okay,
now.
I will try. Only I have some yes, okay, I think it's is it okay? Yeah,
Still not here?
Sorry, you cannot see the pictures. No, okay, so let's not bother. Okay, really, let's not bother. It doesn't have it doesn't have any sense right now, but doesn't matter. Okay, what's the thing actually with all the things is that we held this 71st season quite successfully, and it was the festival takes place from 10th of July until 25th of August, and despite all the global pandemic difficult conditions. It included nearly 50 theater, music, dance, folklore, and other programs performed on 13 different site-specific locations. One of the specificities of the festival is its long site-specific tradition, which makes it maybe the first in the world, actually, in that field of site-specific events, cultural events. But I have to also point out that this achievement could not be possible without bold strategy of Croatian Ministry of Culture, which from the very beginning of Corona pandemic made clear decision that the festival should be held no matter all the circumstances. So it is also important to say that in that respect, the ministry provided the full financial support as promised before the crisis, which was not the case at all with municipal and county authorities. Also with sponsors and donors and many other financiers which could not, join this strategy. And it's important to say that the budget of the festival was reduced by 55% compared to the period before the crisis. So it was needed to completely adopt new patterns and to rethink and to reinvent whole the program, how it looked like. It's actually what the specifics was last year, that we had to change our mission because we actually introduced lots of artists from Croatian independent scene just to help them, both in the field of music and theater, just to help them to go through the crisis in less painful way. Because those artists were mostly affected, of course, by the Corona crisis. And in the situation where most of the cultural activities in the country were withheld and all the major cultural institutions closed their doors to anything, also anyone, also including those vulnerable artists, we managed to give them a chance. And this decision brought a specific quality to the festival itself, since the festival really gives a lot of attention to its tradition and to the tradition of the city and to the tradition of the that kind of performing field. But it was good for the festival because there were some fresh and new ideas and some new things in a cultural and artistic sector to happen. And also, I also said everything which is important, but was once more to say that actually what was a great success that the festival held its traditional format and duration of 47 days, which was a rarity of its sort even in European festival context, because we were one of the 3 festivals that had our program in the format that that was common. And we have also to say that I'm sorry that the photos could not take place right now, and to show you.
We saw them. We saw them. The
you
studio
saw them?
play. Yes.
Oh, thank you. No, nobody told me that. I'm so happy right now. So you saw how the audiences were actually organized, and due to the epidemiologic rules and measures, we are very proud of the fact that the audiences felt safe, and the auditoriums actually were all the time full, and performances were sold out. So, and nobody fell ill actually, or I mean, nobody was. There were no such things that someone would be would catch a disease. So it was. I think it was a great achievement for all of us.
Thank you. Nobody knows more about the art and culture under the severe crisis, especially the siege of Sarajevo, than Nihad Kreševljaković, who is now the director of the MES International Festival. And we saw it always, the enormous need for culture during the times of crisis. So Nihad, this year was the 60th anniversary of MES, festival, which is an incredible achievement that the festival survived the warriors, the post-war recovery, and regain its international profile. So how was this year in a country where politicians usually do not bother to invest anything into cultural sector?
Hello everyone, thanks for that introduction. Basically, we're supposed to shine this year also because of this 60th anniversary, and basically we announced the program in March as every year, which was the moment when all this thing with the pandemic started to become more real. As usually the society is not, I'm not talking just about Bosnia, but about the region. As often they were totally confused with the situation, so all the time we were getting different informations. As we have different parts of the program, we realized the memory model, which is the program we organized in April, and which is connected to experience of the work under the siege. We realized it was mostly online based. It was dedicated also to another crisis that we all share, which is a migrant crisis in a region, and we tried using that experience of the siege to show some kind of empathy towards those people who are even in bigger problem than all of us. And through the year, we tried to find what will be the reactions around the region, what will be the reactions in the world. The region was confused as usually. So we saw also that mostly in Europe, that in Germany, for example, that they closed the theaters. So we came with one idea, which we believed it was pretty much original. So we decided to have each month to spread the festival for 1 year, to have a festival from October 2020 till October 2021, hoping that we will be able, with all that measures, at least to have one performance per month. In October, even our office was devastated by Corona, so half of us was ill, And it was October was a really bad month, when really the numbers of infected people were rising. So on the end, we managed just to realize one of the performances, which was regional co-production from Montenegro, Serbia, and Bosnia, performed by Toni Janežić, and other performance. Some of them were shown online as the small mess for the program for the kids. But there was one thing which we tried to be aware, and that was the situation with independent artists. Festival Mess is a public institution, so I can't complain about nothing important change, but we find out that we will have some money that we will not spend on the festival. So we decided to start the program called the Mass Platform 2020, where we made a public call, where we invited independent artists to apply with their projects in relation to all situation. So we took like the 25% of our budget, where we tried to help our colleagues, which came in really terrible position. All of us from public institutions, at least we had the salaries, we could have, like a normal life. But I think not only in Bosnia, but in all region, that the young artists, the artists which are not related to institutions, were in position where we finally could see what is the real relation of the state towards those people. So they were left totally alone, so we thought that it is important, in such a situation, to care more about our colleagues than about the festival, knowing, that it will be very difficult. So I would say, in these preparations, Sehat was telling yesterday, there are some good sides. For example, it was we could approach to more people, but on another side, the reality of 2020, that it was one of the disastrous years that unfortunately we are here, at least, used to experience from time to time.
Thank you. And Goran and Nihad mentioned both the solidarity initiatives, usually coming from artists themselves, towards those in need, and towards the cultural workers that were definitely hit hard by the pandemic, especially in music and theater. Now, Sehat Čekić comes from Montenegro, from University of Montenegro, and also is the director of the Film Center of Montenegro. Now, film has other opportunities, such as online streaming, if not big festivals. So tell us a bit tell us your views about these possibilities that film industry has, but also some dangers.
Hello, everyone from Montenegro. Yeah, let's say, viewing the situation from the position of Film Center of Montenegro, we have this, let's say, general overview of the things, and we can say that there were problems, or let's say greater problems in every part of the cinematography. Mostly those are connected with production, distribution, and cinemas. And cinemas were, the biggest problems were, let's say, registered in cinemas, and it's the let's say the activity that you can easily calculate the losses. So our information says that cinemas lost some 85% of their let's say regular income, which is huge, and we will need to find a way how to support cinemas. So last year there were a lot of ups and downs, when it comes to pandemic and how we dealt with the pandemic. So I will say that during March, April, May, we found some way how to support unemployed people, freelancers, cinemas, and to support, let's say, some part of the film production, which can be, let's say, done during the lockdown, during this period when you are stuck in home. So let's say, we concentrated on film, let's say, project development, script development, and things like that. But then the real problems, I think, started in the next wave of COVID, July, August, September, when we faced some new reality that the virus is still here, and that in some way initiated some, let's say, new different problems. So I would say that yes, the online services, the streaming services and VOD platforms took, let's say, bigger cut of the market share, and in some way the audience willingly or unwillingly change their viewing habits, and it will be a situation that we will face in some let's say period in front of us, because I think there is a great danger that films will lose their social status, that without the physical screenings, the physical events, I think the films or culture as a whole won't be in the focus of the something that we can say, something that we can register as media or public opinion or whatever is connected to that. And this is something that we need to find a way how to, in a way, inspire people with their new viewing habits, with all the dangers that they're facing if they are exposed to social events, how to inspire them to come back to cinemas, to open air cinemas, whatever is the festivals or cinemas to show their films. So, and one thing that was very common, I think, for whole of region, is that the film production in the region is heavily relies on co-productions. That means exchange of the people, of equipment, or whatever is connected to film production, and having all those different health protocols in every of the countries of the region. It was very hard for producers and for filmmakers to find a way how to, let's say, be in line with all those protocols, because Serbia has its own protocols, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, Montenegro. And that was, let's say, a huge impact on the film production. So many of the films are postponed or halted, and they're halted or postponed without clear idea when they will continue or reschedule their shootings. So that means new costs, whether it's connected to insurance or health protocols or whatever we can find. So that's the new challenge for film production in the area.
Thank you very much. Obviously, keeping the physical distance eventually might have a huge impact on social distances as well. The key would be how to bring people back into public places and to feel safe there and to interact with the others. Now we have for this session registered some 300 people. I'm not sure how many of them are following us right now, but certainly many are there. I hope they are there on their own will, not as a part of work obligation. But what we are going to do now is pretty much exercise in the good old game of how to change the world in 3 minutes. So still we are limited with time, and I will ask you now, because you all thought about it, to use this opportunity to pretty much say, what do you think are the necessary measures at this moment when we might see the end of the pandemic, but it's not there yet? What is to be done? And now I will start with Dora. So you have your 3 minutes to convince people that might impact, that might have an influence on what has to be done right now. Dora.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just talk about position in Croatia because that's my environment, and right now I think talking about this could maybe change the things as well. Now with some critics about our Ministry of Culture, even if that was rather accurate in dealing with pandemic situation after the first wave, And in the midst of the second, there are still a lot of problems unsolved. And the main problem lays in the lack in long-term financing of the cultural sector. I have to say that cultural financing in Croatia is oriented to the one-year project planning, no matter if it is about the independent scene, festivals, cultural institutions. And the pandemic crisis itself has shown the necessity of change of cultural strategy on many different levels, from the top to the local communities. And I'm pretty sure that this is the right and exclusive moment for us in which we should rethink and adopt a long-term system of financing, meaning at least 2 years financial planning strategy, which is already a case in developed countries in EU. And because that model enables us to plan and to have a better perspective and to be in more control of what's happening. And those kinds of strategies are implying the major change in the law considering cultural productions. So this change should be also, so the change of law itself should be also executed at this very moment. So that is kind of all the times that's the main topics in our circles, but never happened, and it's really too slow. So now maybe it's the moment, and I personally will really try hard to make it different and to make this change happening. That would be actually the first problem, and the second biggest problem at this very moment, from my point of view, is this hyperproduction of digitalized art. And one could think that this is the only way where the art could be presented to the wider audiences, but very soon we will come to the complete exhaustion of this format, and which is unfortunately only reproducing the material of performing arts, not even being its substitute, not being its substitute at all. So it becomes like this, that there is a justification of the status quo in which the current state of the performing arts has been found. So we have to be very careful with this platform, because soon enough the exclusivity and the specific value of the culture could be lost. Especially of the performing arts, in the field of performing arts. So this specific value could be lost if we persist to constantly live in false persuasion that the digital way is the only way.
Thank you very much. Peter, you already announced that you have some concrete proposals. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I hope you can hear me now. I would first make a distinction. It's creative and cultural industries that we're speaking about here, right? Or the sectors. But while the creative sector at large, including design, architecture, fashion, and so on, might not have been hit so hard, and it was at least touched, or in Slovenia, supported by the government support for, corona problems, because they're considered the part of the industry which should be, safeguarded. The cultural part is really under attack and in big problems, and culture is contributing greatly to both tourism and consequently to the economy. That's proven, for European capitals of culture. It was proven that it's €1 brings €4. €1 invested into culture brings €4. So I believe we need strategically aligned, well-structured, inclusive and participatory prepared calls and programs that go against the political instability or any other external shocks, be it earthquakes, pandemics, or culture unfriendly political options, obviously, that connect the regional stakeholders or future partners across disciplines, across sectors, and across domains, which we have already proven in art, science, and technology, that these innovations, mostly social, but also economic, technological innovations, can move the world onward, not only digitally. So we need to bring the culture back to the community and make it global, so global and local at the same time, to sustain both high-quality cultural productions as well as non-governmental free culture. The solidarity capacities right now are, I think, exhausted on individual level, on family level, expanded family concept, and community level. So we are in a bad need of this top-down and value-based, politically clearly set intervention to support these new alliances of unexpected, connections, the unexpected partners across borders of, the Balkans and across domains. And, municipalities, companies, NGOs, public NGO players should be, supported, framed together. And this is what, such a forum, such a mechanism like Adrian, which is based on the EUSAIR, should do by setting the right topic, by setting the right priorities to support these, durational formats of cultural actions. The festivalization is over. These festivals now continue throughout the year. There's every month, there's every week something is happening, which means full-time employment of the creative class, which is not anymore chopped up into projects, because it's just the constant flow, now mostly digital flow, of content. So I'm claiming that we need a top-down instigated solidarity and deep care of both public and private non-governmental sectors, which now are kind of going against each other, but they should be brought together. The public sector is supporting a lot, like productions and the autonomous artists being called in for production, but these are just small crumbs. And I am finishing with this proposal that such a forum, such a mechanism, followed by a financial mechanism like Adrian, should be building a robust structure of grant schemes, educational programs, hubs, and so on, which would solve all of the problems that we have been mostly speaking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Both of you basically appeal to the institutions to change their approach to culture, which should be followed also by budgetary changes. It's a shame, and it's a scandal that states invest really. That's only a friction of their budget into culture. On the other hand, you both come now from the former Yugoslav, but now EU member states, unlike your other colleagues, and this also pose some other challenges, obviously, and therefore. Let's hear a bit something from non-EU. So I would ask Goran, who already announced that he wants to say something about this not being outside of the EU, being close to the EU, being surrounded by the EU, but actually not being part of this, which means also not being full capacity to benefit from certain schemes or certain European EU level discussions.
Thank you, Igor. And it is definitely true. We aspire to be Europe. So this is this semi-periphery. We want to be it, but we can't. And this is a ridiculous position to be in. And what I think our position, on the other hand, enables us is to see some shortcomings of this cosmogony, of this European philosophy, especially at the times of scarcity, at the times of crisis, because we are, always in it. And I would say that this is a tremendously important moment, because the narrative about what is going to happen post-COVID will, I think, determine many decades ahead. And I would sum it up. We see, on the one hand, this grip of coming back to normal, this immunization, securitization. So let's just be safe again in the normal, which is deadly, because normal was problematic. And if you go anywhere in Latin America, they will tell you, let's don't go to normal. Normal was the problem and stuff like that. And on the other hand, just yesterday on the Davos, it was Davos, the big global elites gathering, which proposed this great reset. I don't like that either, because resetting to what? To what kind of idyllic past are we going to reset? And are we a computer to be reset? And should we all do the same? So again, universalism, again, some kind of overarching ideologies. I don't like that. I would propose something a bit different. that I would maybe call a radical healing, because if you're ill, and I think we are ill, you don't go back, you heal yourself. And why radical? Because it's urgent, but also because it goes deep. And I would sum it up in three theses. One is reterritorialization that I mentioned. So we should really reroute our cultural and artistic practices. I think that art has been very globalized, cosmopolitanized, but has lost really relation to its actual social and political surrounding. It has become apolitical. And because it has become so global, it has also been commodified, just these floating spectacles, floating around the world. We don't need that. That's not culture. That's really a spectacle. And just yesterday, European Commission announced 2.5 million euros investment into a pan-European digital platform. I'm not sure that's really a solution. We have many digital platforms. What we don't have is public spaces in small cities, in rural areas, communication across the border that Peter mentioned about. So I think we need to think about small scale much more seriously than we used to think. Then the second is really some kind of deindustrialization of culture policy and cultural profession. I'm teaching culture project writing to many people, and actually those who are most valuable in the field, the new ideas, new brave young practitioners, they're scared to hell from project writing, from grants and so on. This shouldn't be the case, because they should be receiving the funds. So we need to leave behind these very complex procedures, very bureaucratic procedures. 2 years ago, European Commission made an experiment with iPortunus program for mobility. They just gave money, basically. Whoever asked money, they just gave money. It was an amazing project, but program. But the conclusion of European Commission was like, we don't know how to measure that. Well, if you can't measure something that everyone said was amazing, then there's some problem there. So when it comes to this deindustrialization, I think we need much radically different measuring techniques, evaluation techniques, with much more affection, emotion, some other completely different ways of doing it. And finally, something that I would call re-ritualization of culture and art. So I think that we often think, for example, when we say theater, we only talk about what's happening in the hall. We don't speak about all the social bonds and political processes happening around it. And this is the ritual. This is the process in which people come together, experience something together. But this cannot happen in a spectacle. And all we talk in cultural capitals and other big projects is the bigger, the better. No, we should be really looking at small scale and also looking at processes much more than products. And this is really not about money. This is not about quantity of money. This is about what will we evaluate in our culture and arts. Is it a process of people coming together, or experiencing something, or changing their points of view, or is it just numbers of people coming to a show that we can test to a donor? So I think we really need to heal, to really see how culture and arts can really heal our very broken societies. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm also inviting the audience to ask questions on this platform. There's a lot of dynamic in the chat room, and especially about digitalization and how actually to deal with it. And it certainly can help, but cannot replace. But please do use this opportunity to ask questions, and that I will then read to our participants. But in last 15 minutes, we still want to hear about what is to be done. We want to hear Nihad, Sehad, and Maria. So Nihad.
First of all, I totally agree with God. So I will try to be shorter. And basically, I would say something which is much more problem of the Bosnia. Bosnia is in very specific situation. So for us, the fact that Europe and even like a wider world is in this situation makes a new kind of problems to Bosnia, because as probably many people doesn't know, the main problem of the Bosnia is some kind of promoting ethnical culture which dominates over everything. So for example, we sued our federal minister for discrimination, because they tried to establish the concept where the money is spread based on ethnical criteria. So I just wish to underline the specific problems that we have. On another side, I must say that sometimes talking about our governments, talking about region, but also, in Europe, there is another problem, it's bureaucratization, it's, of course, I think that generally all people who are observing the problems of European Union, many of them do agree that bureaucratization is one of the biggest problems. And, I'm just afraid that bureaucratization could become the model how they will try to deal with the art, and art is not about bureaucratization. I don't know how many artists, cultural workers are involved in the essential problems that all of us are trying to think about. And I would say that talking about the region, about the Balkans, I'm still not sure, is it good when our governments start to care about the culture, or it's better when we are under the radar of them? Because when they start to invest money, then we got cheap monuments, cheap ethnical culture that is, for us probably hard to call the culture, but obviously they consider that as investment in the culture too. So I think that we have a huge same problem, different kind, but the same problem with the Europe and with our local governments, and it's the issue of the language that we speak. Obviously, we doesn't speak the same language. For us, it's difficult to understand the language of European administration and bureaucratization, while in relation to our very often nationalistic governance, we have a problem to understand each other at all. And for the end, I would just try. I will mention one problem that yesterday there was information that the top on the top of the list of the corrupted countries are Bosnia and Herzegovina and Northern Macedonia. So for me, as a cultural worker, but as the citizen, I would be very glad, if they change that problem. I'm sure that as artists, I would feel much better if I have less corrupted and less nationalistic governments. And not to be so negative, because we talked about it, I would just remind all those people, who makes those decisions, that good side of pandemic was the fact that many people understood on its basic level importance of art. What does it mean when you are closed in your home without opportunity to listen to music, to read the books, to watch those, even online performances, even it's hardly to consider, same experience, but to watch the films. So I think that as we had in Sarajevo during the siege, I think that with this pandemic, we got also one empirical experience that art and culture are basic human need, that it is much more needed than our governments try to present that, making just bureaucratical or some other kind of problem.
Yeah, obviously there is a problem on so many levels in between cultural workers themselves, between various parts of cultural sectors, national governments that are currently in place, so they think basically in the logic of 2-3 years, and then the EU structures. Sehad, and then the final word for Maria.
I will try to be as brief as I can, and maybe I will sound a little bit in general terms. But I will need to say the first problem that we had is that we don't know how long it will last, this situation, and how it turn out. So that's the biggest problems when we come to planning some strategies or something that we want to achieve. And I think the civilization as a whole, or region as its part, will be much different. The audience, I think, will be different, and I'm not sure what will be their expectation and how we can engage them with the content that we are producing. But coming from funding institution, I must say that one of the answers for this crisis is more funding for culture and arts. When it comes to films, I think we need to invest more in and to achieve, let's say, two of the aims. One is, economical, because we can create more jobs, and having in mind that work on film can, let's say, have impact on direct or indirect impact on many people, on many different activities. So we need to preserve this. On the other side, we need to produce cultural content. We need to produce audiovisual content, because we can be in a dangerous situation that all the audiovisual offering can be centralized and will come from one center, whether it's called streaming service, VOD platform, whatever it's called. And then the people will lose the sense of belonging to their own territory or their own cultural, social, whatever it's called, the environment. So we need to challenge, once everything is over, we need to challenge all those dominant streaming services with our own domestic product content. And I agree with what someone previously said, that we need to keep the quality criteria when we produce, because we can fall into some other dangerous situations that we, with the prolific production, non-quality production, we can also lose audience or lose the goals that we had in mind when we started everything.
Maria, you open up this session with how you managed somehow to survive this year, but obviously this cannot be the norm. What would be the way forward?
Well, I think it's very difficult to be at the end of, because everyone had such, spot on, perfect opinions and suggestions. So it's very hard to kind of offer anything new. I can just, say a few comments that kind of piggyback on what everyone said. But I definitely agree that precarity in culture, especially the state level, as most of us, Peter and Dora and everyone was saying, is not what drives creativity. Ideologically, when we take in consideration our regional past, there is a strong need, there is still a strong need to work on consistency, solidarity, and transparency without, with taking nationalism out of that picture, is something that Micha was saying, definitely. So just to kind of go back to what Goran was proposing, I would strongly lobby, and that's something I worked on for a few years, and that's participatory governance. That's, we had this in our experience of Council of Citizens, who are participating in decision-making about culture programs and their financing. So for me, I see, and that goes back to audience development we're talking about, is like letting the people have their share in deciding what they need and what makes them feel comfortable. Of course, there needs to be often spectacles. People want to see a Rolling Stones concert. People want to see, Galway had this fantastic plan that I was very excited about, having Lori and, having her there. But then, you also need to address the local needs. And that's why I said, I think that opening up participation in decision-making about culture and financing to the local community, even regionally if you want, is one of the paths into having a better, more fruitful future. And so I just want to finish, because I know we're towards the end. I would say, I would advocate, radical empathy, something that goes back to Agnes Varda in her retrospective in Canada. And that needs to think about, people in the most open and generous way. And, culture has been going with the NGO sectors, like, from bottom up. And so, different levels of independent researchers and artist practices. But there was also a very strong level of top to bottom that we see now, and most of us working in culture can definitely witness about that, does not necessarily create good practices or even atmospheres in the community. So as Goran was saying, healing, nurturing, reflectively thinking about what is that we need to change and why, that's kind of for me where we can build from strong base onwards and completely, disobey and leave behind that what is not needed.
Thank you. Really, we have 5 minutes at 11:50. We still have 10 minutes. So basically now your time to respond will be reduced to 30 seconds. Maria, I think you said it already. The question of empathy and the role of art and culture. There's also the many questions you raised. Basically, require the entire overhaul of the previous thinking, meaning a focus on a public good, on a common good, such as culture and art and creativity, not only on a sort of profit-driven and immediate effects of the culture, some kind of a long-term perspective that, of course, needs to be done through institutions. But that, of course, will require entirely different philosophy, I would say also entirely different ideology. And in a way, I think, and now I'm summing it up because obviously we are running out of time, in a way, there, as Goran put it, there's no back to the old normal. The old normal was not good. The current normal is certainly not good. We managed to survive because there was a lot of energy and creativity and stamina to survive, but this cannot go on forever. I believe if this continues in 6 months' time, we will be absolutely desperate and many of us will be out of job. So we want the change. The problem is, of course, who is supposed to initiate this change and to whom do we address all these issues. Just to conclude, we saw over the last 20, 30, even 40 years, marginalization of so-called non-productive sectors such as culture or humanities or archaeology or art history and so on. And we saw that basically the fact that we didn't listen to artists and to humanities, to academics, brought us into this extraordinary, deadly situation that we have right now. Obviously, it's not all about virus. We know, epidemiologists know how to deal with it, but it's also about societies and a delicate and layered approach to what is happening in societies and our cultures, that the key for which only art and humanities have. I hope they will learn the lesson. It's not all about STEM, it's not all about models, it's not all about big data. It's something about a very granular understanding of what our societies are. And this is the message I'm getting from this discussion. I want to thank you all for really bringing in your experience, your criticism, your frustrations, but also your creativity in thinking about how we could move forward, and also that you managed to put all of this into just about 60 minutes. Now I'm giving the floor back to the studio, and then Mr. Stavros Kalognomos, if I pronounce it well, will address the audience. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's right, Igor. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thanks to all participants in this session. You said it just as good. It is honor to me to introduce Stavros Kalognomos, Executive Secretary of the Balkan and Black Sea Commission, as an addition, but important part of this session. Stavros, welcome, and please tell us more about cultural and creative regional ecosystems.
So thank you very much for the invitation on behalf of the CPMAR, the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions of Europe. Let me share with you a very short presentation of what we've achieved on this field, and of course we'll share it with all participants. So Okay. So, a few words about who we are as CPMR. The Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions is an association of regions from all over Europe, not only the EU member states, but also beyond. So we have some 150 member regions from 24 countries. We are active in 5 policy areas. We also work on culture and tourism. We work in the region, we work closely with the European Commission, with the different Directorates General and the European Parliament. And as an organization, we are a think tank and a lobby for our members. So just to try to be brief. So in the Adriatic-Ionian region, the CPMR is present through 3 different geographical commissions, the Balkans and the Black Sea, the Intermediterranean and the Islands Commission. And more specifically, we were the coordinators of the Adriatic-Ionian Network of Universities, Regions, Chambers of Commerce and Cities, INUREC. So the CCRE S3, the Cultural and Creative Regional Ecosystems, was kind of a deliverable of this INUREC, that we worked on it together with our member regions. As you may see, the leading regions in the area is the region of Western Greece. How this CCRE S3 thematic area was created. We took the experience of our member regions. So the region of Western Greece is quite active in the field of culture and creative industries. So they brought their experience and together with the other partners and stakeholders in the area, and thanks to the INUREC feedback we had from the different events focused on culture and creative industries and TSG4's recommendations, we set up this cultural and creative regional ecosystem thematic area within the industrial modernization platform of the European Commission and its joint research center. As you may see from the Adriatic-Ionian region, our partners are, first of all, it's a thematic area open to the region, so it's not closed. Those interested may get back to us for further information so that they join. As you may see, our partners already in the area are different regions and countries. Serbia is included. And the aim of this thematic area is to stimulate new insights and opportunities related to cultural and creative industry sectors and help local communities and residents to benefit from their cultural heritage and their cultural potential. It is focused on different related groups of professions, and it also intertwines with the other pillars of the strategy. So we cooperated with Pillar 4 and TSG4. However, the cultural sector is wider. We also aim at Pillar 1, for instance. There are links for creative and cultural industries and maritime issues. As I said before, it's a wider sector, culture. So there are links with different aspects of daily life, and that's why we are there together with our partners and members to work on this new thematic area, hand in hand with the European Commission. We are also there to work on the newly launched New European Bauhaus Initiative. This creative initiative launched last week by the European Commission aims to build a community of people interested in imagining future ways of living and solutions for everyday problems. So together with this thematic area, we'll work closely on this aspect as well. And for any further information you may need, together with our member region of Western Greece that is in charge of the Adriatic-Ionian region, we remain at your entire disposal so that you may learn more about this thematic area. Join us. We already had the pleasure to welcome Rijeka to our opening meeting last October. So we had the experience of Rijeka cultural capital and the problems they faced. So we are there to find solutions all together, work both on the policy aspect of creative and cultural industries and project-wise. So please feel free to get back to us for any further information you may need, and let's join forces to bring solutions and results for this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kalognomos. Embedding EUSAIR priorities in the post-2020 funding instruments and support for enlargement is our next topic. Welcome again. As I said, the next topic is in line. My honor is to introduce you with Ms. Ilse Cyganska, moderator of this session. Ilse, welcome.
Thanks a lot for the introduction and very warm welcome to this session. My name is Ilse Cyganska, as already announced, and I have the honor of moderating this session. I will not be doing it alone. I will share this task with my colleague, Ivano Magazu. He will join us in a second. Before moving to the session and giving the floor to our speakers, let us briefly reflect on what is embedding. What do we talk about it in this session? Because it can mean so many things. So in very brief, EU strategy for Adriatic and Ionian region is built on cooperation for larger territorial impact. It also brings forward enlargement process, as we have heard during these days. To achieve the long-term objectives in this region, countries have jointly identified a set of priorities, so-called flagships, which show the direction for cooperation investments in this period. So basically, the process of bringing together funding, regional initiatives, and linking them to activities that are implemented on the ground for the common benefit of people living in the region, this is what we understand with embedding process. And this is what we will be discussing at this session. We will look at different angles of this process and also link it to the enlargement process. I don't know if my colleague Ivano is already here with us. Doesn't seem to be the case, so I will still take the opportunity and remind to our participants that you can use the platform to post your questions. We will collect them and have a look at them at the end of the session or reply in writing. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Andreea Jerinja, Slovenian National Coordinator for 3 macro-regional strategies, and currently being the chair of the EU strategy for Adriatic and Ionian region. Ms. Jerinja has a unique experience in bringing together 3 embedding processes into national programming. But she will also reflect on the support to enlargement process and also how embedding is seen in the IPA context. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ilse. Good afternoon to all the colleagues that I see and most of you that I don't see. Unfortunately, we have to meet in a setup like this, but nevertheless, let's talk about the embedding. Well, the Adriatic-Ionian strategy and also the Danube strategy, where the Western Balkans country play an important role, are basically the functioning policy and cooperation frameworks that can significantly foster implementation of regionally agreed processes on the ground. macro-regional strategies act as a bridge between the EU and local policymaking. They can also be a vehicle that is ready to facilitate and deliver implementation of the EU initiatives, such as the European Green Deal, Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, Digital Agenda, post-COVID recovery, but also the Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans. And all these could be achieved through the process of the embedding. As the macro-regional strategies, they do not have their own resources. The start of the current programming period presents the best opportunity for all macro-regional strategies to bridge the gap between their needs and the funding opportunities. They had to decide on the key strategic priorities with the true macro-regional value added and embed them into the national or regional programming documents across the whole region. Embedding is expected to increase programs' impact through better coordination and cooperation. During last summer, all macro-regional strategies, we have successfully determined our own flagship topics that are of strategic importance to our respective macro-regions and hence also to the Western Balkan countries, where the IPA 3 will be the main funding source. So macro-regional approved flagships are essentially the agreed actions ready to be delivered through the existing cooperation framework. And now what? Now all of us, we need to incorporate macro-regionally agreed priorities in our own national regional programming document for 2021-2027. In Slovenia, we participate in 3 macro-regional strategies, so we need to embed agreed priorities for all 3 of them, so the Danube, the Adriatic Ionian, and the Alpine, which is more than 80 priorities or flagships. In each macro-regional strategy, we have actually named them a little bit differently, structured them a little bit differently, and presented them a little bit differently. Just collecting the diverse list of 80 priorities and asking our managing authority to embed them is simply not possible. First of all, 80 is not a priority. And so we need a single request to the managing authority because we need to speak the same language with the managing authority. So at the level of the national coordination, we tried to compose a single list from the 3 macro-regional strategies priorities in the case of Slovenia. So we assess the relevance of each flagship to all 3 macro-regional strategies that we are active in. For example, if we take the preventing and joint response in the disaster risk management, this is not relevant only for the Alps, but also for the Danube and the Adriatic Ionian region, as droughts, floods, wood fires, earthquakes, they're common to the whole territory. So this common list now, in case of Slovenia, represents only 12 flagships. They are all simultaneously relevant for the Danube, Adriatic Ionian, and the Alpine region. All are in line with 2019 European semester country report and the investment guidelines. And additionally, we have identified relevance to other key EU policies, such as European Green Deal, Digital Agenda, and so on. So this single table was our basis to start the discussion with the managing authorities. We propose that this single table is added into the partnership agreement, making it very clear what macro-regional priorities will be embedded in Slovenian partnership agreement and in the later stage in operation programs. From the table, it is also very clear how they contribute to national development priorities that are subject of the cohesion policy support as a mainstream program. So we reached the agreement with the managing authority that this is the way forward, but it does not work. Why? Because there is a standard definition on how partnership agreement should look like, and adding a table with the macro-regional priorities to be embedded is not foreseen, meaning standard database used by the European Commission for uploading partnership agreement does not allow for uploading macro-regional priorities table. Of course, we drew the issue to the attention of the European Commission, who confirmed that this is the situation. So for the time being, in Slovenia, agreed macro-regional priorities to be embedded are not part of the partnership agreement because they could not be uploaded, but they are part of the explanation to the European Commission. I hope that in future we will find a systematic solution that will allow that macro-regional priorities are introduced into programming document in a transparent and easier to understand manner. Why this is important? Because first, by introducing macro-regional priorities in the partnership agreement, we make them eligible for the financial support. And the second, by these, we could easily monitor which priorities are embedded at national and regional level and evaluate if different national efforts still contribute sufficiently to agreed macro-regional objectives. Namely, there is always a risk that at national level, we pick and choose only those actions out of agreed flagships that we see as a national priority rather than a macro-regional one. If no one will check the contribution of embedded actions to originally agreed macro-regional objective, we might lose the value of all the efforts invested so far, and that would really be a pity. Monitoring and evaluation of the embedding process is our common obligation. Even more so, as the Council in the last December, in its conclusions, following the third implementation report by the European Commission, decided that the European Commission, in cooperation with the Member States, need to monitor and evaluate the embedding process and report on its results in the next monitoring report. But systematic solution to embedding needs to be found also when we speak of other resources, not only mainstream cohesion policy. Majority of the countries are active in more than one macro-regional strategy. Adriatic Ionian has a significant territory overlap with the Danube strategy, mostly on the Western Balkan territory. It has overlap also on the Alpine strategy. Numerous financial sources, different financial programs are overlapping at the macro-regional strategies territory. For sound embedding process, we need coherence of the efforts, but not only on the macro-regional side. For example, the main aim of the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans is to spur the long-term economic recovery of the region and foster regional economic integration. The plan identifies 10 investment flagship initiatives in key areas for economic development, such as sustainable transport and energy connectivity, the green and digital transformation, strengthening the competitiveness of the private sector, support to health, education, and social protection. EU will mobilize up to 9 billion of grant funding from IPA for the next period to support economic convergence with the EU. The desk examination we performed in Slovenia while preparing this single list of macro-regional priorities to be embedded in our own national programming document shows that there is a significant overlap between the Western Balkan flagships and the ones of the Adriatic Ionian and Danube strategy. Naturally, the strongest links can be identified in the areas of connectivity, environment, and economic development. So the question is how best to utilize the existing links between the economic and investment plan of the Western Balkans and the Danube and Adriatic Ionian as a functional policy and cooperation frameworks. The issue of cooperation and coordination will be of key importance to maximize mutual co-benefit and impact in the Western Balkans, but also in the European Union. Systematic solution ensuring coherent and coordinated actions should be defined also in this area. Adding a simple table with macro-regional priorities to be embedded also in IPA programming document could be a solution. EUSAIR and Danube flagships have relevance and a maturity. They could be the vehicle that accelerates the implementation of the economic and investment plan. I'm looking forward for the further exploration of this possibility during the Macro-Regional Strategies Week hosted by the European Commission in the first week of March, where we will look in more detail on the concrete links between the macro-regional flagships and those of the Western Balkans. For conclusion, I would like once more to stress that the embedding is a complex process that involves not only us from macro-regional strategies, but also all responsible for different financial sources, their programming and implementation that are present in our territories. They could be regional, national, interregional, or at the level of the European Union. Current health crisis showed that no one could challenge it on its own. Success requires pulling up all available human and financial resources. For these, we need relevant, coherent, and coordinated actions. Embedding is all about that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Yerina, for pointing and frameworking our today's discussion and pointing many points we will pick up today. And one of such points is coordination. You mentioned for the efficiency of investments, coordination is essential. You also brought in the perspective of macro-regional view, and it also links now to our first panelist, Italy, country that is involved in 2 macro regions. And in Italy, coordination has been recognized as one of the principles for the programming of the new programs for 21-27 period. And this gives us an opportunity to bring in our discussion our next speaker, Ms. Ivana Sacco, representing Presidency of the Council of Ministers in Italy. Ms. Sacco, may I pass the floor to you with a question? How do you consider EUSAIR priorities in this complex process of coordinating all regional programs, and how does macro-region help you in this exercise?
Thank you for your question. I would like to bring you the greetings of the Director General Massimo Gerli, who unfortunately cannot be here today due to an illness. Coming back to your question, thank you for the invitation, and thank you to the Serbia presidency for having organized this important meeting for the EUSAIR. I would like to take the opportunity to show you how in Italy we are make the embedding process operational. As you know, since the identification of those thematic priorities and recently the flagship project, we have been working to ensure that the user priorities and flagship are taken into consideration in the cohesion policy operational program, both at the mainstream and ACT program. We are convinced that in order to achieve this objective, we need to take key implementers on board, both at a user and national level. Coordination of key implementers is important for different reasons. They need to understand that embedding is part of a broader and coordinated process that involves all the countries of the area. In this common effort, each program has to bring its own specific contribution. Awareness to be created, especially in mainstream programs. In fact, transnational strategies such as EUSAIR has important territorial implication. Key implementers have to be actively involved in identifying operative modalities for embedding, leading a sense of ownership of the process of the goal to be achieved. Now I share with you a brief presentation so it's easier for all of you to follow me. Okay. So, as you know, the European Council in its conclusion on the implementing of a macro-regional strategies last December called on the established network of managing authority of relevant 21-27 WE funding program. In Italy, we already made 2 important steps in this direction. We boosted dialogue with Italian managing authority of mainstream program, which are 24 for regional level and plus the other for national level. And we set up a networking of the European Territorial Cooperation Program, the EMA of European Territorial Cooperation Program of the Adriatic area. And the most important decision for Italy is the inclusion of the EUSAIR priorities into the partnership agreement, so that we started a dialogue with Italian managing authority of mainstream program as well as Italian stakeholder during the meeting for the preparation of the partnership agreement in last quarter of 2019. We are aware that reference to EUSAIR priorities in the Italian partnership agreement paving the way for the embedding of priorities in the drafting of operational program and represent just the first step of the embedding process. For this reason, a specific project will soon be launched, establishing a platform of dialogue between the department within the Agency for Cohesion Policy and national and regional authorities of the mainstream program. In terms of activities, this project includes also support to capitalization activity, especially in terms of integration and transferability of good practice. We have also established a network of Italian European Territorial Cooperation Managing Authority for 3 geographical areas: Western Mediterranean, Alpine Space and Central Europe, and Adriatic and Ionian area. The Adriatic and Ionian network is composed by representatives of the managing authority of 5 European Territorial Cooperation Program, including the Puglia region, which hosts the JS of the Greece-Italy programs. The aim of this working group is to develop a common understanding of the contribution of ACT program in relation to the EUSAIR strategy, to strengthen collaboration between programs and the EUSAIR governance sector, to identify strategic themes for testing and the coordination of activities in individual programs, and to ensure joint capitalization of the result of the strategic themes. We already carry out some important activities. Last October, we organized in collaboration with the EUSAIR Stakeholder Platform the first event with the EUSAIR Pillar Coordinator and Managing Authority of ACT Program in the Adriatic and Ionian area for strengthening the link between EUSAIR and ACT. In addition, the stakeholder platform implemented under the EUSAIR Facility Point is also working to make the link between ACT project and EUSAIR more evident and accessible. During the year, we are expecting to organize other important activities within the Adriatic and Ionian network. In this spirit, we are also available to share and enlarge our experience to other interested ERDF and DIPA CBC program in the EUSAIR area. We are ready to discuss the proposal with the partner countries in the framework of the activity supported by ADRIAN program under the specific objective better governance that have the aim to support the EUSAIR strategies. Coming to the conclusion, I can stop to share my screen. I would take this opportunity also to stress the importance of the ADRIAN program in the coordination of the program of the area. Coordination could be ensured through a stronger complementarity, but coordination could also imply, this is the wish of Italy, the definition of parallel but coordinated project between ACT program, considering EUSAIR priorities a framework for establish such cooperation. ADRIAN capitalization process could give interesting insights on how to build this coordination role, and we strongly believe that coordination should start from capitalization of results already at Kiev. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. It's my turn now to jump in. I'm Ivano Magazzu, working from Interact. And I would like to add a bit on what Ivana just said. Actually, it's and also linking to what Andrea said before, we have to reflect actually on how really macro-regional strategies could help to organize this coordination. Of course, it is important to have a concrete mapping, a concrete list of needs, flagships, or activities that could be done, of course. And this is very important, actually, for, as Ivana said in her last intervention, to motivate as well the managing authorities, and linking again to what Andrea said, also to make the overall, let's say, responsible person for the implementation of EU funds in general aware that we can do embedding by using different means. In this sense, it's my pleasure. I'm working on cooperation in mainstream programs in several years. And here in Interact, we have tried all over the last 5 years concretely to define how this cooperation and how this embedding also could be addressed by the mainstream or investment for growth and jobs, or jobs and growth for the future programming period programs, namely the RDF and DSF programs. In this, of course, it's my pleasure to mention, for example, what the Basilicata region in Italy did lately in 2020 by publishing a specific call for interregional projects that actually has managed to link with at least 7 interregional projects under the ERDF and ESF program of the Basilicata region, 7 funded projects that are actually now contributing concretely to at least 2 of the pillars of the EUSAIR strategy. The first one, the first pillar who actually got the most of importance is the environmental quality, with mostly 6 projects. And then we have the pillar number 4 with 3 projects, whilst only a few ones have been finally financed. Actually, this means that concretely for the Basilicata region, there will be activated a series of partnerships in making concrete these actions through cooperation and the overall setup of the EUSAIR pillars towards cooperation projects with at least 3 member states from EU that are namely Greece, Slovenia, and Croatia, and then with at least 3 countries coming from the EUSAIR area, but that are not yet EU member states. And for example, we have Serbia, Albania, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. The projects, as I told, are now being financed recently, and they are now working on their first implementation. Of course, it will be our pleasure to come back very soon to you, and we hope probably by the next forum and tell you a bit more about the results. In this case, of course, it's my pleasure as well to introduce the next intervention that actually will show to all of us how cooperation, the Interreg, European territorial cooperation, could make also its own contribution in this sense. And it's my pleasure to give a warm welcome to a dear colleague and friend, Lodovico Gherardi, from the Managing Authority of the Adrian Program. Lodovico, of course, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivano. Thank you, everybody. Very sorry, but Caterina did not attend this meeting today, but I hope to do her job as best as I can. Good. First reflection. It is important to have a clear idea of the rule of each box inside of this Chinese box play, because there are strategies and there are programs, ATC, mainstream. There are also other European Union programs, other facilities. We have to try to coordinate and cooperate inside of a system of governance that will be, is, and will be really complex. But we have to find a fil rouge to link all this point. I try to, I share my video, and I try to explain the Okay, here is explain the rule of Adrian, or the rule that we believe that Adrian has to have. Okay, there is EUSAIR macro-regional strategy, and of course synergy with other strategy, and this is up on EUSAIR. But EUSAIR have this own strategy, and we have to herd and to stay at this strategy. And we have to enforce the coordination with the other Interreg programs. Ivana said very well before that in Italy there is an Italian governance system, but this is our rule within this area in the relation of EUSAIR. And we have also to capitalize the result inside of our program. Good. Territorial governance. The governance is to take the capitalization and the rule of Adrian for the with the other programs and with the other elements of this Chinese game. And we have also to, but this will be during the process, have an accountability of the impact, of the result of this capitalization. And the impact, the first impact and the first stakeholder in this approach is the new programs, especially the CBC programs, and in this, and then also the mainstream program that have to stay, and we have to have the rule of junction between the strategy, the programs, and the ETC program and the mainstream. Okay. Bringing macro-regional strategies with territorial policies and activities on the ground. And we have to demonstrate the capacity to align, capitalize, and synchronize the action, and amplify the impact of project at the local level. This means that if an Interreg project is a good project, their impact inside of the local territory has to be very strong to give idea and to give more possibility. I try to give you an example. EUSAIR, a pillar, enhancement of maritime transport for goods. Okay, Adrian, support to realization and implementation of plan ensuring security and environmental protection. One CBC program, support the realization of specific CBC infrastructure tools. Mainstream or IPA programs, support to training, purchase of equipment, direct support to company involved in the sector. This is only to give an example of the different rule and the different capacity that the different programs and the different level of this Chinese boxes play have to produce. Okay, this is up on Adrian for EUSAIR. There is MED for West Med Initiative. There is Alpine Space for Alpine Strategy, Danube for Danube Strategy, and the Balkan Med, but Balkan Med not. Links with the other ATC program. Okay, how can we do? What can we do? Okay, we have to strive to enforce the cooperation with other transnational programs. We do from the voluntary basis we yet done with MED and any and the next MED, any CBC MED, any CBC MED now, next MED in the future. It was because we have to adopt complementarity, synergies, and to have and to provide common topics and to structure common event and promote common activities to promote with the stakeholder these common topics. With the CBC, the adoption of complementarity features types of action, at least with those CBC programs are in the same, exactly in the same space, but with more financial allocation and relevance for the area. From the technical point of view, chosen strategy and identify the topics already in the program phase, calendar and content, of course, for proposal, capitalization of activities with different transnational programs, joint monitoring tools to boost anti-fraud measure, control of double fundings, meeting with the other managing authorities. These are some example of activity that we have to carry on during this period. Okay, these are the things that we've done, and it was the first kind of alignment with us and this strategy. We promote 5 clusters closely related to the pillar of EUSAIR, blue growth and related smart growth, coastal and maritime environment management, toward sustainability in culture and nature tourism destination, integrate mobility, sustainability water and land transport, urban and interurban low carbon intermodal modality for passenger. We created this cluster, and we asked to this cluster we created in 2019 to collect. We collected project, and we asked to building knowledge, production of studies and analysis, and idea, and disseminate the result for the future, for the next programming period. This is the basis for the discussion of the new programs. This is our effort for the future, our legacy. This is the timing to set up the new program. In the May, there will be the approval of a regulation. I will ask to Jean-Pierre if it is true, but it was repeated a lot of time. We hope immediately after, in the months of June or July, we hope to submit the program to the Commission, and we hope at the end of this year, maximum at the beginning of the next year, to launch the first call. Now we have we will be involved in 4 policy objectives: policy objective 1, policy objective 2, policy objective 3, and of course, and it is really important to carry on it really strongly, Interreg specific objective to enhance institutional capacity of public authorities. And we intend this exactly to give our effort to the strategy. Okay, these are my presentation, and I hope that is all the thing that I have to say now, and I hope that this is really useful also for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gherardi, for pointing out the timeline also of your coordination efforts, and a bit showing what could be the focus of the future program in terms of thematics covered. Also, you're still open to receiving feedback when it comes to the focus for a specific objective on better governance, where to strengthen your coordination efforts. This gives an opportunity for the stakeholders of the strategy also to post the ideas and influence this process as well. Thanks a lot. And at this point, I would like to bring in the perspective of IPA a bit stronger. In her address, Ms. Jeriņa highlighted the strong links and potential to build joint initiatives between EUSAIR flagships and the Economic and Investment Plan for Western Balkan as a starting point. Here, I would like to invite our next panelist, Mr. Massimo Minas from DG NEAR, the Strategy and Turkey MFF Programming and Evaluation Unit, to reflect a bit more how EUSAIR priorities are considered in the IPA 3 programming framework. The floor is yours.
Thank you a lot, Ilse, and good morning to all the participants. Indeed, we really try to build on what has already been said about how can we strengthen the links between the EUSR, the strategies, the flagships, and what we are doing under IPA, in particular, what we are preparing for IPA 3. So I would like to start by mentioning where we are in terms of state of play in the IPA 3 preparation. We had in December at the last trialogue, the Council and the Parliament have reached a political agreement on the NDICI regulation, which is the Neighbourhood Development and International Cooperation Instruments, in the context of the new multi-annual financial framework, which will cover the period 21-27. And this is important because we hope that it can also have a positive impact on the preparation of the IPA 3 regulation. But pending the political agreement on this on the new regulation, we still need to continue our preparatory works, and so that means in particular the IPA 3 programming framework, preparing the IPA 3 implementing rules, and all other documents like the new framework agreement, the new financial agreement model, the action document template. So there is a lot of work which is ongoing related to that. But now I would really like to try to answer to the key question. So how are the EUSAIR priorities considered in our programming, in the IPA 3 programming? So first of all, I would like to say that we are very pleased that North Macedonia also joined the EUSR family in April 2020, because the regional cooperation is really a very key aspects of the enlargement policy. So it's very important to seek the integration of all the Western Balkan partners in the macro-regional strategies. And the Commission supports the embedding of the EUSR priorities in the mainstreaming of the EU founding program, because this is the most sensible approach to reach at the same time the objectives of IPA 3 and also those of the EUSR. So I mentioned the draft IPA 3 programming framework. These documents include very specific references to the macro-regional strategies, and the IPA 3 beneficiaries have been invited to submit their strategic responses, which include also concrete action for founding, on the basis of this draft programming framework. So what I really wanted to say in terms of messages is that it is the responsibility of each of the IPA 3 beneficiaries to make sure that the priorities and the flagships of the EUSR are reflected in their strategic responses, so that part of the IPA 3 funds can be allocated to the action that serve at the same time the national and the macro-regional objectives under the different thematic windows of the programming framework. So the coherence of the macro-regional strategies is really one of the elements considered as part of a relevance assessment of the actions which are proposed to be founded under IPA 3. And then when we look at the economic and investment plan, which is aimed at supporting the long-term recovery in the region and support a green and digital transition, boost the economic growth and support the reform that we need for the enlargement process. The economic and investment plan for Western Balkans includes, as it has already been said, 10 flagship projects, which cover different areas: transport, energy, environment, digital transition, private sector, but also youth. And there are a lot of synergies and complementarities with the type of action and the project which are proposed under the flagship of the EUSAIR. So here, I think there is a lot of work to do in developing and making best use of these synergies and complementarities. When it comes to the green and the digital transitions, the IPA 3 regulation, which is still in a draft, sets out the action which are founded through IPA 3, and those are expected to contribute to the mainstreaming of climate action, most likely with an 18% of the overall financial envelope, with the objective of reaching 20% by 2027. So this is a commitment in line with the principle that all the EU expenditure should be consistent with the Paris Agreement objectives under the new MFF. And it will be reflected also in the definition of the thematic windows of the IPA 3 programming framework. In particular, window 3 is fully dedicated to the green agenda and the sustainable connectivity, but also through an enhanced mainstreaming of the climate, the environment, and climate-related energy consideration in all the windows. The European Green Deal is the first political priority of the European Commission and is the strategic reference for the green agenda to support the just transition in the IPA beneficiaries towards a circular, climate resilient, and low carbon economy. An economy where the growth is decoupled from the emission of greenhouse gases, the resource use, and waste generation. And the Economic and Investment Plan, which was adopted in October in 2020, was also accompanied by some guidelines on the implementation of the green agenda for the Western Balkans. And this will support the alignment of the Western Balkans with the goals of the European Green Deals. And in the same vein, the IPA 3 beneficiaries should also use the EU digital strategy as the guiding principle for a human-centric digital transformation of the economies and societies. And this will make them better positioned to integrate the EU's higher added value supply chains, and in future also to join rapidly evolving EU digital single market. In the Western Balkans, the External Action Guarantees, which is founded from IPA 3, will form the backbone of the Economic and Investment Plan, and it will be named the Western Balkan Guarantee Facility. So this will be instrumental also to support the twin green and digital transition. Then I would like to mention a little bit more in detail the IPA 3 programming framework, and also in particular its link with the Economic and Investment Plan and with the new enlargement methodology. Now, under IPA 3, it's foreseen in the Article 7 of the IPA 3 regulation that there is the all assistance is based on the IPA 3 programming framework, which is a single document replacing what we had in the past under IPA 2, covered by the indicative strategy papers. Now, the draft IPA 3 programming framework takes into account the objectives of the about economic investments, which are contained in the Economic and Investment Plan for the Western Balkans. And it also includes some indicative allocation per window and per year. There have been a lot of informal consultation around the draft programming framework, including with the Parliament and the Member States, but also with all the key stakeholders, meaning of course, first of all, the beneficiaries, but also the civil society organization, the international financial institution, international organizations. And the programming framework reflects the specific objectives that we have in IPA 3 regulation. And it's articulated around 5 thematic windows. Now, the revised enlargement methodology, which was published in 2020, introduced this concept of the clusters of negotiating chapters. And now the 5 thematic windows that we have in the draft programming framework are mirroring the clusters of for the negotiation clusters. More specifically, so when we look at the 5 windows, we have the first 2 windows which focus on the fundamental first, while the third and fourth windows are more focused on the large economic investments. And finally, there is a last window which is fully dedicated to cross-border and territorial cooperation, very similar to what we had already under IPA 2. And now the IPA 3 programming framework also refers to the draft Western Balkans agenda on innovation, research, education, culture, youth, and sport, which should be published soon, and which outlines the long-term strategy for the cooperation with the Western Balkans in those areas. And under window 4 of the IPA 3 programming framework, we specifically plan to support the development of human capital through the assistance in areas like education, training, skills, health, and employment, social protection, and culture. Finally, I would like to conclude with a little bit of information about where we are in the IPA3 pre-programming process, and starting with the fact that this process basically started in summer when we invited the national IPA coordinator to submit action fiches, which are like embryonic action documents for 2021 and 22 programming. Then in August, by August, we received all these action fiches, the draft action fiches, and we started the first screening together with the delegation and the counter teams, because we tried to reduce the number of these action fiches to a reasonable set of actions, which could be then further developed to become actual action documents. In December last year, we have sent back to the national IPA coordinators our preliminary feedback on the policy relevance assessment. And now the next step is the process which will focus on the technical maturity. So this technical maturity is assessed on the basis of the draft action documents and of the supporting documents, and only those actions which are considered to be sufficiently technical mature, so in the sense that most of the preparatory actions and activities which are necessary have been finalized, will be considered for adoption. And the complete overview on the situation and the budget allocation for action will only be available after this assessment, which is really a fundamental step, and it covers all the action to be adopted during for the year. Now, the beneficiaries have also been asked to prepare strategic responses in which they need to outline, let's say, explain how their sectorial strategies are in line with the recommendation of the enlargement process and how they are going to contribute to the objectives of the programming framework. Now we expect to receive the draft action documents for the programming of 2021, together with the supporting documents, which allow us to do this maturity assessment, and also the draft strategic responses. So this package of documents is expected by mid-March 2021. For 2022, this calendar is a little bit postponed and delayed. I mean, just to complete, we are following this commitment to a merit-based enlargement process, and the overall exercise of the assessment of these strategic responses will take into account the progress of each beneficiary on the enlargement agenda. On the other hand, the assistance will also be targeted and adjusted to the specific situation of the beneficiaries, and we will try to ensure that there is an appropriate level of support to all of them in accordance to what we call the principle of a fair share. So this is what I want to say. I think these are the most important elements, and also where we are in the preparation for the program and for the first year of IPA3. Thank you. I think yeah.
Yes, I'm muted. Sorry. Thanks a lot for this comprehensive overview. We shared a few of the links to the documents you mentioned that could be helpful and interesting for the participants in the chat, in the discussions. So go to the tool and see. We also see a few questions popping up. We will take them at the end of the session. So thanks a lot, Mr. Mina. And now let's move to a practical implementation and look at the experience of Serbia. As our next speaker, I would like to invite Ms. Aleksandra Radinovic, Head of Division for Planning and Programming of EU Funds and Development Assistance in the area of Economic Infrastructure and Regional Development, Ministry of European Integration, Serbia. Ms. Radinovic, from your experience, what is expected in the next 7 years of the programming period from the Economic and Investment Plan for Western Balkans, and how does it link with the EUSAIR, especially in the area of connectivity? The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. Good day to everyone. So as you heard, my name is Aleksandra Radinovic and I work in the Ministry of European Integration Republic of Serbia. So I will now today discuss about the connectivity projects, but because this is Adriatic and Union Strategy Forum, I would like to say to say that the regional approach for the connectivity projects is really of high relevance, especially, for example, and for the transport and energy, as I said, because when you have a transport, you know that the transport does not end at the border, so the country must cooperate with their neighbors in that sense. So for us, the Republic of Serbia is really planning to develop all projects that are on the core network, and this is the Corridor 10 network. What I would also like to say that when we are talking about economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans, Serbia have proposed 12 projects, and the total amount of this investment project is 1.5 billion euros. So this is really high demands that we as Republic of Serbia have. Mostly projects that we propose are the transport and the energy, and 7 of them are projects that are marked as flagship projects within the European and Economic Investment Plan. Maybe I can now start with the transport, what we are planning to do. So we are currently developing the projects like railway from Serbia to North Macedonia. This is Niš-Preševo. And why is this important? Because this project will help us to connect with the ports in Greece, such as Piraeus and Thessaloniki ports. So this is really important for the transport of the people and goods. We know that we have already started to prepare the documentation for this project, and we will start with the implementation in 2023. This is the same with the core network and Corridor 10. This is the railway line from Serbia to Croatia, and also very important, especially for the transport of the people and the goods as well. What is also important that these projects are also in line with the Europe, with the Adriatic and Ionian strategy, and also in line with the EIP and the Green Agenda, because Republic of Serbia is now starting to implement these goals of the Green Agenda. So we are moving, I can say, we are now concentrating on the railway transport, and also on the waterborne transport, because they are more environmental friendly. When we are talking about, I will also continue with the transport, why is this regional cooperation is really important, and these forums like this, because we can discuss about the future plans of our neighbors. And a great example for this is also a highway of peace that we are now have to build together with the Pristina, and this highway will allow us to go to have access to the Albanian ports as well. So these kind of forums are extremely important, and also Western Balkan Investment Framework. This is the instrument from which Republic of Serbia and all other Western Balkan partners will withdraw the funds, especially for the connectivity projects. As I said, we are now a little bit concentrated on the waterborne and railway sector. We are also planning to improve the navigation conditions on the Danube and the Sava River. And this is also in line, as I said, with the Green Agenda. But these are all infrastructure projects. It is also very important when we make this infrastructure link that we also have this kind of soft measures. So it is really important that we speed up the border procedures with our neighbors because, for example, we can use this implementation of one-stop shop concept. And I want to say that we signed some agreements with Macedonia and Montenegro for this matter. But we also need to straighten with our neighborhood countries to straighten this, I can say, approach and to speed up these border procedures in order to reduce delay in the trains and etc. What would I also like to say and to mention? This is the transport project. When we are talking about the connectivity projects in the transport, for the energy projects, for us it's really extremely important. Trans-Balkan transmission corridor. This project is also recognized in the EIP and also in Adriatic Union strategy, and this project will allow us, our country, that we took the electricity from Romania, and the electricity will be transmitted through the Serbia, through the Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Italy. So I have to say that this is one of the electricity, how can I say, this is one of the backbone in electricity transmissions in the Western Balkan. And it is also one of the really important projects in context of the Berlin process. I want to say that we are planning, Republic of Serbia have finished first section, and second and third section are now in the implementation. But the fourth section, this is a regional project, and this will be application that will be submitted by the Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Republic of Serbia, and we are planning to do this now in 2021 and 2022. So when you look at this, all of these projects that I mentioned, we are planning to propose them very soon for the Western Balkan, and this shows a really willingness of Republic of Serbia to implement the goals and all the projects that we submit for this economic investment plan. And what is also important in energy project, this is a gas interconnection between Serbia and North Macedonia. This is projects that we will hope that soon we will start to prepare the documentation. And this is really extremely important because this will help to transition from the coal, because from the gas we have much less emission of the greenhouse gases. And also this project Trans-Balkan Corridor, it is also in line with the green agenda, because the resource of the energy that we will take from the Romania, it will be more renewable energy and from the hydropower energy, not the coal. And we are now starting to make serious plans for these coal transitions, because we know what we need to do in order to fulfill the goal of the agenda, green agenda for the Western Balkan, that we in the region have signed also in November 2020. This is related to the projects for transport and energy projects. I can discuss now with I can also talk with other projects, but there are so many of them that are currently are preparing, especially through the WBIF. And maybe I can say that in this context of Ionian and Adriatic strategy, it is also important not to forget the biodiversity and the nature protection, and this we can do together. And the important is Natura 2000. This is something that is really, I can say, regional projects, and all the countries needs to do together in order to save the biodiversity in the species. And the Republic of Serbia will start soon to develop the first one, biodiversity law in Republic of Serbia. We have for the nature protection, but not biodiversity. And we will use these guidelines by the strategy for biodiversity that the European Union developed for 2030 year. I also want to say that we as Republic of Serbia prepare the project in wastewater and waste management system. This is also part of the EIP. It's not that big regional impact, but this is also important because if everyone do on their sides this project, this kind of projects, we will have less pollution. I don't know what to say. I want to say that this is really important, that we always keep to stay in touch. This is important, especially in this time. And I think that the connectivity was very important for the humankind. I know that we always find a way to stay in touch, and this digital forum is now really a true example. So as you see, we need to work together. We are like, I don't know, we need to stay connected. So this is it from my side.
Thanks a lot. We are running short of time, but I would still allow one follow-up question. How does participation in EUSAIR help you actually find partners and implement these important initiatives you presented? There are many. Just pick one example to show us.
Okay, I have to say that I do not follow this strategy, but I know why these forums are important, because everyone from the region can hear the plans from, for example, my country, so we can make connections and to cooperate together. Also, it is important that when we are developing the goals and the action plans, we are doing this together. So we are really looking, how I can say, when we do that, we are looking that this is always in line with the EU strategy, because this is also our goal of our country, the EU accession process. So that's why these forums are really important, that we, how I can say, have the same goals in several different strategies, so that not to have overlapping or maybe some misunderstanding that in one strategy we put something else that is not in line with the, for example, Adriatic Union strategy. So we also are part of the Danube transnational strategy, and when I look all these action plans and goals, the goals are the similar. And also when you look at the Green Deal and the economic and investment plan, you will see that connectivity projects are also one of the pillars as well in this strategy. So I think that in these kind of forums we are making together we are making the plans that will help us for the social economic development, and that everybody have something of this project.
Thanks. So reinforce the efforts. And this is also a topic that we will tackle in our next presentation. Embedding is not only about funding, it's about actually considering joint priorities, joint flagships in all the processes that happen in the region. And this is the topic that our next speaker will pick up. And it's my pleasure to pass the floor to Bojana. Sorry, I lost the name. From Bojana Zoric, sorry. That's our next speaker, Bojana Zoric, Senior Policy Analyst at Regional Cooperation Council. Bojana, the floor is yours. Please show how do you link all the regional efforts also with the flagships of the EUSAIR strategy. Thanks.
Thank you, Ilse, and it's a pleasure to be here today and discuss the macro-regional strategies from a regional perspective of the Western Balkans. Basically, the objective of EUSAIR to promote economic and social prosperity and growth in the wider region is deeply enshrined into the Regional Cooperation Council's mandate, particularly regarding the EU integration in the Western Balkans. And one thing that the 2020 taught us in the region is that the regional cooperation continues no matter what. And the hardships experienced in the face of the pandemic last year, in a way, only gave an impetus for the Western Balkans to go beyond the existing frameworks of cooperation and do more. And it was also the pandemic that reaffirmed the EU's unwavering support for the Western Balkans as an integral part of Europe, which was later on resulted in the economic and investment plan, which was mentioned today during this session. Basically, the peak of regional efforts, if we are talking about the existing frameworks and regional cooperation, came about during the Sofia summit in November 2020 with the adoption of Common Regional Market Agenda. And why is the agenda important? Basically, it is based on the EU for Freedoms approach and strengthened with investment, digital, industry, and innovation areas. And it works in two directions, eliminating barriers within the Western Balkan region, but also reducing the gap with the EU single market. And it has clear economic and political gains that the wider region is also benefiting from. It will bring a regulatory convergence with the EU, place the region on the investors' map, address the market fragmentation, create jobs, offer greater choice at lower prices, but also allow people to work and travel within the region. And the importance of this agenda also lies in the fact that it caters for the continuation of the region's work on the digital agenda for the Western Balkans, also previously mentioned, that was launched in 2018 by the European Commission. And the implementation of the digital agenda for the Western Balkans showed to be instrumental in aligning regional efforts towards the EU best practices and policies. And basically, the CRM will allow to even further and strengthen the work by including and integrating the Western Balkan region into the pan-European digital space by aligning it with the EU digital single market. And we will go in the direction towards providing broadband internet access for the vast majority of households, enabling the Western Balkan free roaming region, but also reducing the roaming costs between the Western Balkan region and the EU, engaging in digital upskilling, embarking on new challenging practices such as artificial intelligence, smart cities. And since the digital solutions are also key to fighting climate change and achieving the green transition, this brings me to another very significant achievement that was again mentioned, but I will shed more light to explain complementarities with the macro-regional strategies, and that is the green agenda for the Western Balkans. As a political commitment of the Western Balkan leaders also at the Sofia summit and part of the economic and investment plan, it represents a significant achievement and an important milestone for expected ecological transformation to support economic development decoupled from resource use and emissions. And the importance also lies in the fact that it closely mirrors the European Green Deal with its 5 pillars. So decarbonization, circular economy, depollution, sustainable food system, and nature and biodiversity protection system. And that being said, there is a strong complementarity element of the green agenda for the Western Balkans within the EUSAIR, particularly in its 3rd pillar, environmental quality, but also complementarities can be found in the Danube strategy and its priority of sustainable energy, water quality, environmental links, and biodiversity. Basically, when it comes to the Western Balkans, but also the wider region, the efficient and sustainable use of natural resources, preservation of biodiversity, habitats, and ecosystems is very important because they're highly susceptible to pollution. And unfortunately, the wider region is vulnerable to disasters and faces consequences of the climate change as much as the Western Balkan 6 are. And with the official kickstart of the implementation of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, in close cooperation with the European Commission, Western Balkan authorities and other partners, RCC will work on developing an action plan, roadmaps for the implementation, and users-friendly and functional monitoring system. And in this respect, Western Balkans would benefit from bringing in the experience, know-how, best practices from the flagship implementation of both the EUSAIR and Danube strategy, both at the very initial stage of implementation where we are now at, but also throughout the entire process. After all, EUSAIR is one of the supporting formats of the Western Balkans EU accession process. And in that respect, values, policies, and flagships that macro-regional strategies propagate are very much in line with what the region does under the CRM framework, including the Green Agenda and the Digital Agenda for the Western Balkans. So allow me to conclude by saying that the crucial in the next phase when talking about a collaboration will be to establish synergies within processes that are running parallel in the Western Balkans, including those that I just mentioned, but also within the macro-regional strategies, and make maybe more efficient and effective use of existing instruments, including the economic and investment plan, but also very important to strike a balance between all relevant stakeholders, not only those within the broader region, but also member states that are participating in the macro-regional strategies. So that would be all from me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zoric, for showing all the complementarities that exist in the region and benefits of coordinating the processes for reinforced effect. We are running out of time, but I would still steal a moment and ask one of the questions that has been posted in the platform. Namely, the most voted question goes to embedding is meant 100% to match flagships with priorities, or there is a satisfactory percentage to be achieved and considered as successful embedding process. I think this question nicely summarizes our discussion, and I would pass it to Andrea. Andrea, do you hear me?
Sorry, I have a rather, could you once again repeat the question, because I'm not very clear whether I understood you correctly.
The question is also in the chat, but embedding is meant, what is embedding? Do the programs have to match flagships 100%? Or there is a satisfaction percentage that can be still seen as successful embedding?
This is basically a very complex question, and there could not be an easy answer. What is most important is that the main objective of agreed regional actions that we all believe that they have a significant importance to the region are delivered. As we are the countries that are different within the region, it means that not all of us will do the same actions. They will be diverse because the countries are diverse, the capacity is diverse. But what is important is that the contribution of each of us, the things that will be implemented on the ground, at the end of the day, they still actually contribute to the initial objective. So there is no real rule how much they have to match. And I really doubt we will be able to get a rule, or it doesn't really make sense. What is truly important is that the effort that we are really working on, be it from the macro-regional aspect or the national ones, are such that whatever we do and we fund with the public money makes sense. It is for our own good and good of our neighbors, because we all live together with our neighbors. The majority of our economic exchange is basically with our neighbors. So we need to work things in a coordination, in a coherent manner. And if these actions will find the financial resources in the financial programs that are available for our territories, and they are really numerous, then I think that embedding will be a success story. I didn't really answer directly, but it's impossible.
Thanks a lot. I will take it as a closing remarks for this session. Before giving the floor to our final speaker, I would just conclude that we will continue the discussion, and next meeting is already planned for the Macro Regions Week to be held in Brussels, of course virtually, but still we consider it in Brussels, first week of March. With this, we have the last 3 minutes, and I would like to pass the floor to our last speaker, Ms. Eleni Marianu, Secretary General, Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions, for the closing remarks. And thanks all for participation.
Thank you very much to this panel. It has been really extraordinary, all the contributions, very short and to the point, and the main subjects at the heart of the matter, really. And as a Secretary General of an organization of 150 regions that are being organized since the early 70s, I always say that we are an old association, and it's important to say that, because if you have an association of regions that was set up by the regions and they decided to work under the sea basing umbrella before the macro regions became so much la mode, it means that this way of working is a way of working which is successful and can be really, delivering goods in the future. So we are shaped in a way that we work in macro regions. All our regions are working in the Black Sea, in the Atlantic area, in the North Sea, in the Baltic Sea, in the Mediterranean area. So, and we have been working for over, decades now, from the early 70s. So the way that a macro-regional strategy sets the framework for action is a good way forward. And let us all remember, we have all mentioned the way that we have been limited in our life, in our economic development by the pandemic. it has really led to job losses. It has led to uncertainties. It has led to communication the way we communicate now, to less human contact. And this is a global issue that needs a concerted action at national, European, regional level. Also, we should remember that for the recovery, we have really a large amount of money, tremendously amounts of money. We never had that before. Some of it we may not even be able to spend it. And the European Commission went out to the markets for that, first ever. So these are signals that the money is there, and now we need the concerted effort, and now we need the embedding element. That it's the heart of the discussions today. A lot of the mainstream activities have stretched, the Commission has stretched the embedding element in the mainstream cohesion policy and in the European Territorial Cooperation Project. So it's been supported that this way of actually embedding and coordinating the instruments should be reinforced in the new programming period. So the line of work is there. The suggestion is there. Now, the devil is in the details. And Andrea mentioned that, how we would like in our country to do this, and we cannot possibly do it into the actual rewarding or setting of the partnership agreement. So we need to think differently, I think, under the situation. And because of what's been said already here, we should not follow the programs. I think the programs should follow us. The programs should follow the needs. The programs should really build these bridges we want between the Western Balkans, the rest of the Adriatic area, etc., in these flagship activities. Because the wording is there, but the difficulties are in the details of how do we actually implement this embedding. Okay, and that's, I think, is an important element for us to keep in mind in the future. The needs are there, the strategies are there, the partners are there, the programs should fulfill this way of actually working together with our neighbors, because we will always work with our neighbors. So I think this is important. The other important...
Sorry.
I need to stop.
Last point, and then we have to switch back to studio for the closing remarks.
Okay, sorry, don't went too far away, but okay, just last point to say then, because I can't speak for all of it, it would be, we spoke about the mainstream cohesion, we have the recovery funds, which also are there for us. I also want the last point about the Horizon Fund, that I don't think it was mentioned a lot in the discussion so far. So programs that are directly managed by the European Commission, it will be interesting to actually make an earmarking as much as possible for the strategies in place, because that will also contribute in what I said in the beginning. The programs need to follow the needs. I leave it to that. We are here, if you want, we try to establish a French of EUSAIR strategy in CPMR with the European Parliament, so MEPs will join us in this effort. So if we have suggestions and proposals, I am here to be able to pass it on to the legislators of the European Union. Thank you very much. Sorry for all this short kind of intervention, but well, we need to cope with what we have. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, and back to studio.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all. It was a great pleasure having you on our conference. Next special session, actually press conference for journalists with accreditation, will be held for the next almost half hour. All our attendees can use this time for networking on our platform, and we will see you soon. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and participants, it is time to summarize the 5th EUSAIR Forum. Our guests, Pavle Jankovic, Andrea Jerina, Jean-Pierre Halkin and Colin Wolf will present conclusions and closing remarks. First of all, Mr. Jankovic, welcome.
Great, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clearly.
Very good, thank you. Well, dear participants of the 5th EUSAIR Forum, representatives of the European Commission, representatives of the Slovenian chairmanship, dear colleagues and friends, what a ride this has been. More than 850 participants, distinguished speakers, leading experts, exhibitors, and a selection of outstanding discussions with all those who care about our region. An excellent utilization of modern technology that allowed us to interact these days. The fifth forum felt almost real. It was indeed my pleasure and privilege to have been with all of you these 2 days, not just in my capacity as the AII and the EUSAIR National Coordinator, but also in a purely personal capacity. As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was not involved in the organizations of this impressive gathering, let me first congratulate my colleagues from the Ministry of European Integration, from the European Commission, representatives of the Slovenian chairmanship, and all the experts involved in important discussions during the past 3 days for the extraordinary work done to make this event possible. Let me also thank, and I really mean this, all the support and technical staff for their hard work. The written program says 28 and 29 January 2021 for the forum. Yet, and if you look at the program, we also need to convey special thanks to our friends from the Adriatic Ionian Initiative Secretariat from Ancona for organizing the side events that preceded the fifth forum, and also for the event that will be organized today later on in the afternoon. To my understanding, all the meetings held during the fifth forum gave us a particular opportunity to take stock and see where we stand when it comes to the most important issues related to the implementation of EUSAIR. They also gave us an opportunity to examine how we could and should continue our work in the future, in particular, having in mind the new reality for all of us, marked by the COVID-19 crisis. Looking at EUSAIR, one of the EU's macro-regional strategies, as an exceptionally important policy framework for EU and non-EU participating countries, I would like to highlight a couple of points. First, as a national coordinator coming from a non-EU participating state, I need to stress that closer synergies of EUSAIR with the enlargement process is the key to supporting the EU perspective for the Western Balkans, in line with the EU priority, a stronger Europe in the world, that is the 2019-24 priorities, and of course, the new enlargement methodology. Second, the current involvement on an equal footing of the Western Balkans in the EUSAIR should be further enhanced, including by ensuring the effective participation in implementing twin green and digital transition. Third, strengthening the political commitment remains essential. The national and regional authorities of the EUSAIR participating countries should be able to provide more strategic leadership at ministerial level to bridge the gap between the strong political commitments and the necessity to support the administration to follow up on these. Finally, embedding EUSAIR priorities in the post-2020 funding instruments. The plenary session that I particularly enjoyed listening to is vital for the EUSAIR to achieve its objectives and for the programs to improve the effectiveness and increase their impact by cooperating and coordinating actions across the macro region. For EUSAIR to substantially contribute to the mid to long-term economic recovery and prosperity of the participating countries, stronger political ownership and drive need to be sustained despite all challenges. On this bright note, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to pass the floor to my dear friend and colleague, Madam Andrea Jelena. And it was really a privilege to be here with you these past 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. Dear colleagues, dear participants, and dear friends, let me first congratulate our Serbian friends on the extremely well-run the EUSAIR chairmanship, because today's and yesterday's forum is the last act of their presidency. And please don't forget that the EUSAIR is the only European strategy where participating countries, regardless of their political status, take over the full political responsibility and also take over the presidencies. in the area of the EUSAIR, we had 2 non-EU member state presidencies in a row, Montenegro followed by Serbia. We all hoped, together with our friends from Serbia, that they would be able to organize a full-fledged forum with all of us participants getting together in Belgrade and enjoying the very well-known hospitality from our Serbian colleagues. But unfortunately, the situation is still not allowing us to do so. And we don't even know whether we will be able, while hosting the 6th EUSAIR forum in May, to greet you all there. What we are trying now is to organize it or prepare it in a hybrid manner. So at least we hope that at least some of you will be able to join us. Regardless to forum in which we are cooperating, we do cooperate. And this is the most important. And we do deliver. Because we were able to develop the EUSAIR into a robust network that even in the most challenging conditions, we are delivering because we have the mutual trust and mutual respect. And these are essentially needed elements for a joint work. Many of these results, many of the deliverables have been discussed and presented in these 2 days. And they are actually giving us a trust in the future that whatever we do, we will, by all means, contribute to the key EU policies, being from the European Green Deal, Green Agenda to the Western Balkans, to the EU enlargement process. So whatever we do within the macro-regional cooperation, it has important contribution to the most important actions within the EU. Under the current Slovenian presidency, we are focusing primarily on improved quality of lives along our shared seas, which is a concrete contribution to the Green Deal and Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. Of course, we are continuing on the contribution of the macro-regional strategies on the EU enlargement processes. Having the forum organized by non-EU member states with all what Paula was mentioning, all the achievements, is a concrete result, is a concrete deliverable. We need, of course, to continue working with the current challenges in respect of the COVID-19, because the real consequences will still to come. Problems in our society, problems in our economies. And of course, what we need to do and continue is to improve the capacity in the field of communication. Because if we don't tell to our partners outside what we will do, they could not benefit from the results of our work. So far, we are satisfied with what we have achieved, but still there are many things to come. Embedding, governance, future governance support, contribution to most important European policies. These are the topics that require our next actions. At the end of the day, we were asked by the Council conclusions in December last year to continue working in this respect. But the deliverables that we are bringing, and as I said, many of them have been presented in these 2 days, actually give us the satisfaction that we can contribute to the most important European policies so that they are implemented today and not only tomorrow. And this is what we will be discussing also in the next forum, the 6th forum, which is to come in May this year. And I would like to invite you to the forum in Slovenia. I sincerely hope that we will be able to greet you there physically, to embrace you, to even kiss you, because we need to maintain the physical contact, the social contact among the people, because only with working together, we could really achieve what we have planned to do in our macro-regional strategies. So, dear friends, dear colleagues, thank you very much. Once again, sincere congratulations to our Serbian colleagues and all of you who have participated, that again, the 5th EUSAIR annual forum is a success story. Thank you.
Ms. Yerina, thank you very much. And now I announce Mr. Jean-Pierre Halkin.
Thank you. Dear Pavle, dear Andrea, dear friends, dear participants. First of all, I would like to associate my voice to the one of Andrea to congratulate the Serbian presidency and the Serbian colleagues for the incredibly successful organization of the 5th annual forum of the European Union strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region, the EUSAIR. In those exceptionally adverse circumstances, Serbia has demonstrated its leadership, its determination, its commitment toward making the Adriatic Ionian region greener, more connected, and more resilient. During the panel, the discussion, the sessions, we witnessed lively conversation, rich and interesting exchange of ideas, which were resulting from multi-level, multi-sectoral, and multi-stakeholders intervention. And this was particularly rich discussion. During those last 2 days, we also heard messages of unconditional support to the 4 pillars of the strategy, and also message of unconditional support to the enlargement process. And we've heard those messages from all levels, from representatives of the think tank, of the universities, of the cultural and creative industry, from EU institutions, from also civil servants, senior officials, and also politicians. We've heard this with a call, and this call is for more cooperation and more action. And as we know, where there is political will, there is a way. And in the context of EUSAIR, this way has a name. This way is called embedding. And as Commissioner Ferreira said, embedding is not only a cold bureaucratic word. Embedding entails working together to make out the most of the resources we have, being regional, national, European resources, for the benefit of all individual citizens and all of the regions of the macro-regional area. Even though the challenge of embedding is clearly in front of us, I am reasonably optimistic that embedding will be a success. We've seen in the last months recognition of the importance of the macro-regional strategies at the highest level in Brussels. I'm here referring to the 3rd report on the implementation of the macro-regional strategy by the Commission, the recently adopted and very ambitious Council conclusions, which were adopted in December under the German presidency. And also, we need to keep in mind that now the strategies are embedded also in the highest level of governance in Brussels in what we call the European semester. in this setup, it's also interesting to note that the responsibilities and expectations vis-à-vis each of us are now better described. Responsibilities vis-à-vis the Commission, vis-à-vis the member states, vis-à-vis the participating countries. Our success will be a collaborative work and a collaborative achievement. It will be collective. In the discussion that we've had the last 2 days, there were 3 overarching priorities on which I will want to come back. They were already touched upon by my predecessors. The first one is the response to the COVID-19. As we've seen, the crisis has now a tremendous impact on the economy. And you know that among the key values of the European Union, we have the cohesion and we have what we call the European social model. And what we've achieved in the last decade on those 2 policies risk being reversed by the COVID-19 crisis. And we need to make sure that we use the strategy up to its maximal potential to make sure that we are alleviating the effect of the pandemic on the risk of increasing inequalities. The second point that was already mentioned is the importance of the green and digital transition. Even though the COVID-19 crisis is hitting us, we must also tackle the current environmental and climatic crisis. At the same time, we know that green economy, circular economy, digital transition are providing opportunities we must seize. This is why we believe that the green and digital transmission must be part of the updated EUSAIR in order to take advantage of the unprecedented resources which are now made available in the EU budget for the 2021-2027 period. The third point, which was very important, is the enlargement. We heard Commissioner Vahedi indicating that he expects EUSAIR to help the countries to advance in their path toward the European Union. And I will just here insist on something that was already mentioned by Andrea, is that indeed the strategy has a potential to allow all candidate countries to get familiarized better, faster, earlier to the EU policies, but also to the EU tools. And that's something important. To conclude, first of all, we can draw lessons on virtual event, the size of the forum, to see that indeed there is a toll to pay, and certainly we all regret the lack of direct contact among participants. But still, we have seen that the Serbian presidency was able to draw the best also of virtual event. And the virtual exhibition that just took place is an example of how successful can be a forum despite the adverse condition. So we really congratulate the Serbian presidency again for this innovative approach. We are also looking in this context to the next forum of the EUSAIR strategy, the 6th one, which will be held, as indicated, under Slovenian presidency. And we are looking forward to keep discussing the topics that we've been discussing today and take note of the progress. I would like to end my intervention on something which is totally unusual in the context of a forum, as it is a personal note. At the opening of the forum, there were references on the history of the strategy, which is now a very important element of our landscape whenever we work with the Balkans. And it was reminded that 9 years ago, the Council asked the Commission to develop a new macro-regional strategy. It signaled the start of a collective success of developing a new strategy with 4 member states, and at the time, Croatia was very much a young member state, and at the time, 4 countries of the Balkans. And as already indicated, the only strategy where the presidency, with all the political meaning that goes with it, travels outside of the border of the European Union. And a strategy where equal footing means even more than other strategies. In Brussels, one person was at the helm of the adventure, and this person is Colin Wolfe. He's going to take the floor in a few minutes, and in a few weeks, Colin will leave the Commission to start a new adventure, and he will become his own boss. In normal time, I would have asked everyone to join the hand to give an applaud, but I suggest that in this time, we use also the benefit of the virtual forum, and you use the chat in order to pass a message if you wish to Colin. So Colin, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Jean-Pierre. This is really very, very much appreciated. And thank you for your kind words. Dear colleagues, dear participants, it's really great pleasure to be here with you, alongside you in this virtual event. And I must say, congratulations, a very big congratulations to the Serbian presidency on this excellent job that you've done. And particularly in these very challenging times. And I do hope that everybody is indeed keeping safe and well. We would have loved to have been with you in Belgrade, but it hasn't proved possible. But let us look forward to being able to meet each other face to face before too long. I think for me, what has struck me about this event, and I want to share this with you as participants, is just so many signs of how important it is. I think that's always, it's true of the level of participation. And it's true of the topics that you've been covering. I particularly take note, and I listened with great interest. We had the interventions of 2 European commissioners, and we had as well, I think, and forgive me just for singling out certain, the very high-level representation from the Regional Cooperation Council, from the transport community, and from the energy community, all of which operate essentially in the region, and with whom we, and I speak now particularly with responsibility for the Western Balkans, we have very, very intense discussions, relationship and implementation work. And I do think too, and I would congratulate the presidency and all the organizers for having concentrated on what seemed to me to be particularly relevant topics, whether it's how we deal with this pandemic and how we deal with how to look to recover from it, and how we also, I think, very clearly need also to pay attention to the big priorities that affect us more generally, and those are the digital transition and maybe even more particularly the challenges of the environment, the environmental transition as well. Allow me to say, because I think it is important, and Jean-Pierre, you emphasized how this strategy is key, the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region for the Commission and for the EU. Just to say how important it is also for the Commission and therefore the EU policy towards the Western Balkans region overall. And I do want, because I hope there has been an opportunity to emphasize that how much the strategy, it contributes to what are, I think, 2 absolutely key elements, components of the Commission policy approach to the Western Balkans. The first is that there's a very great emphasis that we put on the importance of cooperation, regional cooperation, but cooperation. And that's because in itself, cooperation is really important in a region which has certain legacies and which has experienced division. And it's also cooperation in itself. It's important in signaling readiness for EU membership. Now, this may not always be explicitly stated, but I know from the way in which the discussions go, just how much how shall I say, the ability to cooperate is important in terms of how the enlargement process does move forward. And that's because there is a sense in which EU member states, we have we need to place so much emphasis on cooperation as a way to work to make the EU function, that we do need to be assured that the countries who are the candidates will be able to cooperate well. And I think it's really clear that the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region provides the basis, a big basis to demonstrate the importance and the readiness, the importance of that cooperation and the readiness of the region for its European destiny. It's not only, I think, cooperation that demonstrates importance in itself, and that's important, but also, as you clearly have underlined in what you said and your contributors have said, that cooperation is key in its effect improving the material lives of people, whether it's their livelihoods. You've referred to in the deliberations of the event, to the blue growth, to the creative industries, and to sustainable tourism. And I think there's many contributions that are important for the growth in jobs, the economic prospects of the people. Also in terms of connections for people, in terms of better and cleaner energy connections and better transport connections. And then I think also in the quality of life for people, in how their environment is, how healthy that is, and how they can adapt to climate challenges and make sure that the world that they live in is healthy and pleasant, and it is adjusted to be sustainable. So that's the first big contribution that the Adriatic and Ionian strategy makes to the way that we look at the relationship with the Western Balkans. It puts this big emphasis on cooperation. The second is that it gives, I think, a very key central part to play to the European perspective of the region, and that it's very much a facilitator for the partners in the region to participate in EU initiatives. And this is key in terms of, again, I return to growth. The facilitation to participate in the digital agenda of the EU, to participate in the innovation agenda of the EU, which is both of these now being extended to the Western Balkans region, to participate in the smart specialization approach, which is also key to economic development. So the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region facilitates the taking part in EU initiatives for growth, but also in relation to EU initiatives for the environment. And I'm thinking here particularly of the Green Deal and its Western Balkans equivalent, which is the Western Balkans Green Agenda, and as well the opportunity to participate in this very interesting EU renovation wave. So a second area where the strategy really helps is to facilitate, to take part in EU initiatives on the environment. And the third is in relation to human capital and the human resources development. And there again, I think the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian, it facilitates particularly the cooperation that's necessary to maximize the work that's done with young people, the work that's done on the working together on education and training, the work that needs to be done on transitioning from the world of education and training to the world of work, and to address what are very important and big issues in the region, namely the fact that so many people with talent have felt that the opportunities are not as present there as they would wish, and have been leaving the region. We need to reverse that. We will reverse that, and that's very important. So I think what the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region does in terms of the Commission and the EU approach to the Western Balkans is it really facilitates that key emphasis put on cooperation, and it really facilitates that key emphasis put on the European perspective of the region. We listen, on the threshold of a very interesting time. We have now a funding and programming period through to 2027. We have significant new resources. The instrument for pre-accession assistance 3 will shortly be adopted. We have, as of last autumn, the economic and investment plan, which is the blueprint for the use of those resources in the Western Balkans region. And as part of that, we have a big emphasis put on the development of a common regional market. So there is a very big, how shall I say, opportunity and potential now. And I would see, and this is the way that I would like to conclude, the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region really being key in terms of facilitating, making the best of those opportunities and making the maximum use of those resources. It's something which it gives us space to be able to develop the use of those resources in absolutely the best manner. And I think, and several of the colleagues here have made the point, that one of the absolutely key points about the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region is it means that all partners, whether they're EU member states or whether they're in the Western Balkans, play an absolutely full role and an absolutely equal role in the way that the development is taken forward. So I would really say this is a moment maybe when we can move towards making the most of the potential of the EUSAIR and making the most of its opportunities. And I'll finish by saying I wish all the very best to the incoming Slovenian presidency. I know that you will make the most of this potential and these opportunities, and I think we can all look forward to the event in May, and indeed seeing how you in the presidency make the most to mobilize the immense energy, enthusiasm and expertise that we've seen manifested over the last few days. Thank you so much to everybody. Really appreciate it, and courage in these difficult times.
Mr. Wolf, thank you very much. I would like to thank our colleagues who in the final session rounded off our 2 days of work. With their participation, we not only managed to additionally emphasize the importance of previous results, but also future actions to be undertaken within the EU strategy for the Adriatic-Ionian region. We thank once again all our speakers, participants and partners. A big thanks to the technical and organizational staff who made it possible to run the virtual forum in perfect order. We are especially proud because this event enabled the connection of more than 800 followers from all and participants from all 9 countries of the Adriatic-Ionian region, and also from various institutions from Brussels and many other European countries. At the end, greetings from Belgrade and stay healthy.